Hey everyone! Today we do a full shell replacement on this PSP-1000, swapping out the old worn out casing. We're also installing an IPS Display kit to bring the visuals into the modern era. So grab your tools, sit back, and let's bring this PSP back to life. To begin the teardown, we'll start by removing the battery cover located on the back of the PSP. Once that's off, we'll unscrew the 4 screws hidden beneath it. These screws secure the top housing of the device. Next, we'll move over to the other side and remove 2 additional screws located near the edges. The screw on the bottom of the PSP is already missing. With all the necessary screws removed, we can now carefully separate the PSP's top housing from the rest of the device. For the next step, we'll need to remove 7 screws to take off the metal frame inside the PSP. This metal frame serves a dual purpose. It acts as a heat sink to help dissipate heat and provide structural rigidity to the device, ensuring everything stays securely in place. Originally, this frame also housed the LCD screen, but in our case, the screen is missing, which makes the removal process a bit easier. Now, we can proceed to disconnect the speakers. Carefully unplug the connector. In my case, there's only one speaker installed, and from what I can tell, it's likely faulty. Next, we'll disconnect the UMD Drive's ribbon cables. These cables are delicate, so take your time and gently release them to avoid any damage. Moving to the left side of the device, we'll focus on the D-pad. It's secured by a single screw, so we'll remove that first. Once the screw is out, we'll release the ribbon cable holding the D-pad in place. With the cable disconnected, the D-pad is now free and can be set aside. We'll move on to removing the screw that secures the charging port. Once that's out, we'll carefully release the ribbon cable connected to the button panel, gently unplug the cable and set it aside. Next, we'll detach the entire button panel assembly. This includes the ribbon cables and the R1 button unit. Carefully lift the panel away from the device, making sure not to damage any of the delicate components or cables. Now, we'll carefully attempt to remove the charging port connector. This part is unfortunately quite fragile, so extra caution is needed. In this case, we got lucky. The connector itself didn't break off, but the plastic part of the connector remained stuck in place. This is a common issue with older devices, so it's important to work slowly and gently to avoid causing further damage. Now remove the last screw holding the motherboard, and remove the Wi-Fi antenna with its cable. Then flip the handheld over to the other side. With a firm but careful motion, we'll remove the UMD door. Once that's out of the way, we can proceed to remove the UMD drive itself, which is secured by 4 screws. As we lift out the UMD drive, we need to pay close attention to its ribbon cables. Remove the door spring. Once it's out, we'll flip the PSP over and continue working on the other side. Using small, gentle rocking motions, we'll work the motherboard free from the frame. Be cautious here, as there is a small connector holding it to its place. Now, we can finally take a closer look at the motherboard in all its glory. In my eyes, this piece of hardware is still an engineering masterpiece. The next step is to remove the 2 screws from the lower metal shield. This will allow us to access to the Wi-Fi and card slot combo module. After removing one final screw and lifting out the small plastic piece, we can proceed to carefully remove the unit. We finished disassembling the lower part of the PSP, and now it's time to move on to the faceplate. From here, we'll need the rubber membranes and the analog stick. The joystick is held in place by 2 screws. Once these are removed, we'll have completed all the disassembly steps necessary for our project. Before we begin the reassembly process, it's essential to clean out 2 decades worth of dirt that has accumulated inside the PSP. To do this, first we'll use a soft brush to remove the dust. Special attention should be given to the contact pads and connectors. Carefully clean them using 99.8% isopropyl alcohol, cotton swabs, and soft brush to remove any potential corrosion or buildup. We'll also go through the same cleaning process with the button contacts to ensure that the input remains responsive and reliable. As part of this process, we'll also clean the rubber membranes and refresh their conductive surfaces using a simple yet effective method. By gently rubbing the contact areas on a plain sheet of paper, we can restore their conductivity. This is a well-known, tried and true technique that has been used for years to revive worn-out conductive surfaces. Now it's time to bid a bittersweet farewell to the old, yellowed, and cracked housing. It served its purpose, but now we'll prepare the brand new aftermarket shell for installation. Unfortunately, original replacement housings are no longer available. For the PSP-1000, this specific aftermarket version is one of the few that maintains a high quality standard. While it's not an original, it's the best option we have to restore this classic handheld to its former glory. Unfortunately, our new faceplate wasn't made using the dual press mold technology, like the original factory part. This means the lens and the housing are separate pieces, unlike the seamless design of the original. However, we'll take advantage of this and upgrade the plastic lens to a genuine glass one. After removing the plastic lens and cleaning off any leftover adhesive from the surface, we'll carefully apply a thin, even layer of special liquid glue around the edges of the housing. We'll peel off the protective film and it reveals the crystal clear surface of the new glass. Once the new glass lens is in place, we'll gently press it into the faceplate to ensure it sits perfectly flush. While the adhesive dries, we'll take the opportunity to start reassembling the rest of the PSP. First, we'll secure the plastic memory card slot cover with a single screw. Reconnect the Wi-Fi antenna connector. Once that's done, we'll carefully snap the entire unit back into the device. Now it's time to reinstall the lower metal shield. Once it's in place, we'll take the corresponding plastic piece and set it over the shield. Then we'll fasten it down with 2 screws. Before we reinstall the motherboard, there's a critical step we need to complete to ensure the IPS display functions properly. We need to create a short between 2 specific points on the board. In this case, we're using a special conductive paint to bridge these points. While applying the conductive paint, we must be extremely careful not to accidentally short-circuit any neighboring components. It's time to reinstall the motherboard. Carefully align it with the connector and gently press it into place, ensuring it's seated correctly. Once it's in position, secure it with a single screw to hold everything firmly in place. Next, we'll place the Wi-Fi antenna back into its spot and route its cable along the designated path. To keep the cable secure, we'll use a small piece of Kapton tape to hold it in place. After that, we'll reattach the plastic connector slot to the motherboard and screw the yellow charging port back into place. Carefully reconnect the charging port connector, making sure it's seated properly and securely. Now we'll snap the right side button panel back into place and secure its ribbon cable. Since the previous owner mentioned that the old UMD drive was faulty, we'll replace it with a brand new unit. Before installing it, we'll reattach the UMD door spring. Then, carefully guiding the ribbon cables to avoid any damage, we'll slide the new UMD drive into place. The UMD drive connects to the housing via 4 rubber grommets, which we'll secure with their corresponding screws. After reinstalling the UMD door, we'll test its movement to make sure it opens and closes smoothly. Once we've confirmed it's working properly, we'll reconnect both ribbon cables, securing them with their locking tabs to ensure they stay firmly in place. For the speakers, I ordered a replacement set from a donor PSP. We'll place these into their designated spots and carefully plug both connectors back into their respective ports. Now let's connect the D-pad ribbon cable and secure the unit with its corresponding screw. Next, we'll reinstall the metal frame for the LCD. Make sure the UMD door switch clicks into place as you position the frame. Once it's aligned correctly, we'll secure it with 7 screws to hold everything firmly in place. Now it's time to install the IPS panel. The kit comes with an adapter cable, which we'll carefully route under the metal frame and connect to the appropriate ports. We'll then attach the IPS panel's ribbon cable to the adapter, ensuring it's securely locked in place. Gently place the IPS panel into the frame, making sure it sits perfectly. Next, we'll install the L1 and L2 shoulder buttons. I also purchased the lower button strip from a donor PSP. We'll connect its ribbon cable and snap it into the LCD frame. Now, we can start reassembling the faceplate. First, we'll reattach the cleaned analog stick and secure it with 2 screws. Then we'll place the buttons and their rubber membranes back into their designated spots. Finally, we'll position the foil contacts for the lower button strip, ensuring they're properly aligned and seated. Now we'll peel off the protective film from the LCD screen, revealing its clear, untouched surface. Finally, we can join the 2 halves of the PSP. Carefully align the faceplate with the lower housing and gently press it together. Now we're down to the final 7 screws needed to complete the reassembly. And let's not forget the bottom screw. For the finishing touches, we'll apply the decals to their designated spots, adding those small but important details that complete the PSP's look. Finally, we'll insert the battery and snap the battery cover back into place. And this is the moment we've been working toward. The PSP-1000 is finally complete. And there you have it, our fully restored and upgraded Sony PSP-1000. From replacing the cracked and yellowed housing to installing a vibrant IPS display and upgrading to a glass lens. I hope this video inspired you to tackle your own restoration or modding project. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.